Hello and welcome. There's a huge opportunity on the manufacturing side on the India-UK corridor, but equally in services. I'm now joined by Sanjeev Varma, CEO of Steria India, of the Steria Group, the 1.75 billion euro company. Sanjeev, thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking for a while now. Tell us, how's Steria looking at some of the services opportunities in India in the coming year or so?
So this has been, I think, a very momentous last few months. There's a sense of optimism. You would be aware that Steria has just, initiated the process of a merger with Sopra. So we are looking at India with renewed interest. I think there are more opportunities and services, especially in our chosen domains of let me call it homeland security, with transportation, with biometrics. So those are our few chosen domains that we are really keen to go after.
Can you give us a sense on what are the larger themes that are playing here in terms of the growth and opportunity in the Indian market, and what are the specific opportunities that you're seeing?
So if we look at the Indian market and the opportunities there, I think one, obviously with the emphasis on the manufacturing and the fact that we've had a good budget, I would call, something which wasn't, let me say, very path-breaking, but still good to give an impetus to the industry. And therefore, there is that renewed interest as far as Steria is concerned. I think we are looking again at our chosen domains, specifically again, homeland security. We have an offering into smart cities. So I think that's another thing that we want to go after. And on transportation, which I think with the massive thrust on infrastructure, our offerings, especially in terms of transport and smart cities, in terms of, whether it's the power grids, whether it's smart buildings, I think those are the things that we are really going to go after. So it really is an exciting period for us, I think.
Right. What are the one or two exciting projects that you're either working on or about to commence work on, Sanjeev?
So I think one, we are working with the Uttar Pradesh police on a few projects on, on security and surveillance. And I think, again, we are looking forward to replicate that in a few other states. So that, I think, is a signature kind of projects, which I think will mean a lot to the, in terms of crime control, etc.
Right.
The other ones that we are looking at right now are in transportation and solid waste management. So again, transportation is on highways and, in cities, which I call intelligent traffic. So those are the ones that we are going to go after again. And in biometrics, I think there are opportunities. We have some great strengths which have been, exploited in Europe. And I think that's another thing that we are hoping to replicate. We are working with UID, and trying to see how we can leverage on that on our biometric solutions.
Right. A broader sense, Sanjeev, on some of the challenges on the operating side, either at the policy level or otherwise, which you would like to highlight, if you feel there are?
See, the challenges are, I think, one, we are looking at many states. And I think in the current scenario, the states that we are looking at, because of the political uncertainty in some of them, we do have a bit of a challenge there, but I think that is temporary. In terms of regulatory, I think, in the last few months, I think we see that there is far more positive interaction. So I would not call that too much of a constraint.
Right.
But clearly we need to be able to emphasize to the government, and especially in certain public sectors, the need for quick action, the need for quick decisions. I think that's where we feel that maybe the government can be a little more proactive. But on a regulatory,
right,
framework, I think more or less things are gradually falling into line, I feel.
Can you dwell a little on the India-UK corridor and what specifically are you seeing there in terms of new things happening or things that need to be done?
Yeah, so I think as far as the UK is concerned, it really is really an important piece in India. It is amongst the top 5 trading partners. It ranks third in investments into India, and it's relevant to point out that Indian investment in the UK has also really grown. So coming to specifics, I think the Bangalore-Mumbai economic corridor is one that I think is relevant from from a Steria perspective. As I mentioned, our strength in transportation, etc., and in any opportunities that come along in terms of smart cities, I think could be a singular opportunity. Other than that, I think there is probably a great deal that we can do in healthcare with the UK. There were some MOUs signed in the last few years with Nat Health, and with NASSCOM leading, I think therefore that's one logical thing that we can do. The NHS is something that Steria works very largely with. Now, what we can replicate out of that in India is one thing that we could look at. And then homeland security. When I said we are working so much on police modernization, the fact that we are doing so much work for the UK and especially the police there is something that we are hoping that we can replicate. So those are 2 or 3 clearly identified opportunities for Steria, at least with the UK.
Right, and you mentioned healthcare. Is there something? Can you define for us a little more what within healthcare looks interesting and that might be of interest to people who are watching this?
So I think when we're looking at NHS and we are looking at the private sector in India and how we can probably partner with the UK authorities, and now those are still, I would say, in the initial stages, but particularly, at least personally, I think NHS has been something remarkably successful in the UK, and whatever we have done for them, again, we have a joint venture with NHS. In the last year or 2, we also have signed, where we are doing work for the public sectors in the UK. We have formed what is known as SSCL, where a lot of the government departments are giving work to this entity. Now, those are path-breaking, initiatives that have been done, and I think therefore this is something that can clearly be built on.
Right, and what's the sort of one thing that's changed for you as a business in the last year or so, and what's the one thing that you would like to change or you would like to see progress in going forward, Sanjeev?
So one thing that has changed in India, I think, is one, there's a sense of optimism, and therefore that is translated for us. The way Steria India is viewed now by Steria Group is that this is a big opportunity. They are looking at us in the long term. So I think that's how Steria has changed. The one thing that I would probably want or I can mention is, can the government be a little more proactive in, for instance, when we have talked about SEZs, we've talked about state empowerment. I think if that is something that can actually be initiated faster or quicker, I think it will make a big difference. So whether you talk about GST or whether you talk about other things, that will throw up so many opportunities for service companies like Steria to get into.
Right, great. So the optimism is there, the speed is what can perhaps be improved or better. Thank you very much, Sanjeev Varma, for joining us.
Thanks Govind. Thank you very much.